Zen in a chaotic world. I love that. Thank you for sending it. You can't overlook the importance of changing your perspective in life as well, because when we do that, we have an opportunity to see things in a new light. So thank you. This is pretty funny. The answer to this, well, there's no answer. It's a comment, but I kind of feel like I already do. You should wait to see the images of your boys from processing cows last week. Pretty fun. This is a pretty deep question, and I think there's multiple variables here for situations like this. One of the most powerful things, especially as a small business owner that we have, is the power to say no. And that's harder than it seems. Saying no is harder than it seems, because when you say no, you could be walking away from a significant job that perhaps was going to pay your mortgage that month. But if it's affecting you emotionally, then saying no is the right thing, and that is hard. I want to acknowledge that. The second part of this is some people are better at not taking things on personally. Those people can just kind of brush things off and not take it personally, and still continue to, as the second part of your question there, tough it out. There are jobs that we do have to tough out and finish. These are the jobs that you don't really want to do maybe, and you're not really getting along with everybody, but you know that you still have a deliverable to produce. Those are the ones that you just finish up and move on. Let's talk about some specifics. Maybe you start a job and relations go sour. In that case, you still have a deliverable to produce, and then you can walk away from the relationship as well. The last thing here about this question is when you do have to say no, or when you do walk away from an existing job or relationship, do so without burning bridges, and that'll save you future heartache. I have a couple different ways of approaching this. Number one, I walk away from my images unless there's some immediate turnaround time, like let's say 24 hours. It usually takes me at least a week to 2 weeks to turn around my images. And in that time, I'm able to walk away from the images and come back to them within a week or 2 weeks with fresh eyes. In other words, seeing things from a different perspective, like we talked about in the very beginning. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that I don't beat myself up. This is something I believe that every one of us will experience. Even these images on my walls, I could tear them apart today, and find their flaws that I don't like. I've learned to temper that critique voice over time. And in that time, the 1, 2, 3 week time frame that I come back and I cull my images, I look at things that I've starred and said, you know what, that's just not impactful enough for me, and I get rid of it. Finally, on this question, there's a disconnect that happens for me when I export my images. By the time that I've exported them, I've said to myself, that's it, it's done. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to critique it later on. It just means I have to let it go. Sure thing. All I need is an invite and need to talk to the organizers to make sure it's okay for me to shoot, and I'll be there, so let me know. Just as a simple recommendation, I do recommend the 5D Mark III, but take into consideration that it's also the wide-angle lens, and also a creative exposure is an authentic expression of your artistic vision.